my friends, welcome to Baltimore. Daze with Jordan the Lion. It begins right now. Here is Camden Yards, Oriole Park. That ties into our vlog today. Yes, we are in the hometown of one of my all-time favorite heroes, my favorite baseball player, and one interesting, funny guy, the great Babe Ruth. Here we are at 216 Emory Street. This was the birthplace of the great Babe Ruth. This was the home at the time of his grandfather, Pius Schomburger. He was a German descent, so Babe's parents were both of German descent, and Babe actually, as a little boy, could speak German. Now, he was a very unruly kid. They didn't live here very long. They ended up moving to another place. His father was a train car operator and also ended up running it was like a soda fountain drugstore slash saloon, and he would work the saloon. So as a little boy, Babe was always getting into trouble. His name was George Herman Ruth, and he would go out during the day, and we're talking when he was 5, 6, 7 years old. He was going out and breaking windows, skipping school, drinking beer in his dad's saloon, and eventually just causing so much trouble that his parents decided that they had to send him to St. Mary's School for Boys. It was a reform school and orphanage. Now, going to St. Mary's School for Boys at the age of 7 years old would, in a lot of ways, you would think be very scarring, but Babe actually kind of enjoyed it. He ended up meeting one of the people that ran it there named Father Matthias, who was the disciplinarian, but he also was a great baseball player. And when you went to St. Mary's School for Boys at the age of 12, they started teaching you jobs that you could eventually, get a job doing. And so he would be trained as a shirt maker. And even when he was in the heyday of his career getting custom made suits and everything, he would still always want to alter his own shirt collars. But while he was there, he ended up loving baseball and became an exceptional baseball player. When he went in, he was deemed incorrigible, and a lot of people didn't have a lot of hope for him. His parents almost never went to visit him. He was basically left there and abandoned. The only time he was ever able to leave St. Mary's School for Boys was for his mother's funeral when she passed away when he was at the age 12 years old. So it's thanks to his time at St. Mary's with Father Matthias that he would actually talk about Father Matthias the rest of his life, saying what a great father figure and role model he was. And Father Matthias was the one who saw how good that George was. He used to call him Jidge. See how good he was at baseball, and ended up at the age of 19 getting him a contract with the Baltimore Orioles, in the farm system at least, in the minors. And then the Boston Red Sox purchased Babe's contract, and he started his career with the Red Sox as a pitcher. Really, really good pitcher, but they knew that he was a great hitter, and that was the day when nobody hit home runs, and he could hit home runs, so he wanted to play every day. So they converted him to playing in the outfield, and he ended up becoming one of the greatest players in baseball history. Actually, I think it's widely accepted that he was the greatest baseball player in baseball history, because he probably would have had the stats even just as a pitcher to make it into what would become the Hall of Fame, let alone setting home run records and hit records, retiring with a .342 average. Pretty unbelievable. Can't believe I'm finally here. I became a fan of his when John Goodman made the movie about Babe Ruth called The Babe. I saw that and just got so into it that I went out and got books and started reading up on Babe, and they would always show documentaries about him. Just always loved his personality. Here they're telling a little bit of his history. Basically a lot of the things I already mentioned. Said he was known as the Sultan of Swat, the Great Bambino. This was his grandparents' home when he was born here on February 6th of 1895. Said he was sent to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys, listed as hopeless, incorrigible. Said that he remained there until Jack Dunn paid him $600 or paid $600 and became his legal guardian in order to whisk him away to play for the Baltimore Orioles. 216 Emory Street. Now it's a Babe Ruth museum, and I've wanted to see this as long as I can remember, so let's go check it out. This is a miniature of the statue of him at Oriole Park. There's Babe as a catcher. That's pretty cool to see. And here they're talking about when Jack Dunn gave him his nickname Babe. They said it was actually when he became an Oriole and he showed up for the spring training games. All the ordinary things that he would see, like a railroad train or elevators, restaurants, things like that, would make Babe super excited because he was used to being in a boys' home. So they started calling him Babe, as in Jack Dunn's Babe. There he is. Never seen him wear that uniform before. This is a copy of the sales receipt from selling Babe Ruth from the Baltimore Orioles to the Red Sox. Here they have a replica of his Baltimore jersey, and it said on March 7, 1914, his 5th day as a professional, he hit his first ever home run and his 2nd ever at bat. Wow. The minors. That's pretty crazy because people did not hit home runs then. It said on April 22nd, Ruth started the 2nd game of the team's regular season with an impressive 6-0 shutout over Buffalo. By early July, the Orioles, led by their rookie sensation, had a 14-6 record. There's Babe with his first wife, Helen. He was a major womanizer. Not that he, was trying to be unfaithful. He just loved everything. They said if he loved baseball or food or women, he loved everything of it into excess. So there's his wife, and they actually have his first marriage certificate to Helen right there. October 17th, 1914. He met a waitress named Helen Woodford. They were married at St. Paul's Catholic Church in Elliott City, Maryland. Wow, that's the original one. And then this is the scorebook from his first official game. That's insane that they have that. There he is in the very bottom. You can see Ruth pitching. This is showing once he joined Boston, and it says that 5 days after the sinking of the Titanic, Fenway Park became the new home of the Boston Red Sox, and these are planks from the original press box roof that was there from 1912 to 1934. So those would have been there when Babe Ruth was playing for them. Now this is really cool because it shows Yankee Stadium. When the Yankees acquired him, they knew he was going to be a huge draw, and they built this stadium, and he was the main draw for it, as they suspected. So people started calling it the house that Ruth built. And that was one of the original field box seats from Yankee Stadium from 1923. His daughter used to sit and watch the games from those seats, and she said it was always 9 innings of agony, and said that he was just an absolutely great father. Like, he was always fun, never remembered any bad moments with him. Can you imagine 9 innings sitting on that thing? It's like dining room table chair. Now take a look at this bat. This is incredible. This was from his big 1927 season when he hit 60 home runs, set the record at the time. That lasted for a very, very long time, 60 home runs in one season. But they said notice that the bat has actually got a warp to it now. Look at it. It absolutely does. There's his name up there.
In American culture,
you can see where he would have had some hits right there.
So what is it about a baseball card that makes...
And then down there is
Let's pull back the curtain.
a signed baseball from Babe.
When I first heard that the rookie card
stating that he hit a home run on September 13th of 1927. Actually, it says he hit 2 home runs in a doubleheader. I love the staircase they have here that takes you to the exhibit upstairs because look, it's baseball bats. So take a look at this. They actually have recreated the house the way it would have been when he was born. And they have a little bit of family history. Look, there's the staircase. And that would have been the front room. So that was the doorway right there that we were looking at the number on. This is what it would have looked like when he was a little boy. That's very cool. I love it. That's a great touch. And then here, that was his grandpa that I mentioned by a Schamberger. It says, a brick unearthed from the George Ruth Saloon. As well as that bottle. And this says this is the only known photo of Babe Ruth and his mother. It says it would have been in 1896 or 1897. A bunch of families here. Oh, it looks like this is her right here, the lower left. Catherine. Here's Babe with his family. That would be his second wife, Claire, Babe, his daughter, Dorothy, and Julia. And Babe loved kids. He would often spoil kids. If he saw kids anywhere, he would buy them hot dogs or sign autographs for hours at a time. He just always went out of his way for kids because he was, he didn't feel loved when he was a kid until he met Father Matthias, so he always tried to make kids feel loved. This is Babe's Presidential Medal of Freedom that he was awarded in 2018. Oh, this is cool. It has all of his World Series home runs and the dates. Starting in 1921, up here versus the New York Giants. That's a lot of home runs for a World Series. Most people lock up and can't do anything in the World Series, not him. He was hitting them all the way till July 6th of 1933. Oh no, that's the first home run on an All-Star game. Looks like his last home run in a World Series was the called shot. October 1st, 1932. And this whole wall represents all of his regular season home runs and where those took place. Alright, let's go upstairs now. Oh, that's great. That's a painting of him signing an autograph. American Hercules. There's Babe Ruth's kimono. That's funny. This is presented to Babe during his 1934 trip to Japan. According to Babe's daughter, Julia, it was his favorite from his nighttime wardrobe. You can almost imagine him wearing that, can't you? There Babe is in Japan, coaching some kids in Japan. There's his grooming kit from his tour to Japan, even showing that it still has his initials on there. George Herman Ruth up there, GHR. And you can see the things he would have taken with him. Little mirror, hairbrush. That's really neat. And this is celebrating the players that have had 500 home runs. They've all signed baseballs to be displayed in here. The top one is Babe. There you can see Frank Robinson. Some of them have signed multiple people. There's Ted Williams on that ball. Hank Aaron up here on that one. Mickey Mantle and Mike Schmidt. There's Mickey. Ernie Banks, Willie McCovey. One of the things that Babe did that he doesn't get farly enough credit for is that at the time he played, baseball ended at basically the Mississippi River. St. Louis Cardinals were the furthest west. He used to, in the off season, go out as far as California, Hawaii, and would do like barnstorming tours and would go play baseball out there to bring baseball to the people that lived out there. Say, Pop, you don't know of a club that wants a good manager? That's what he's saying down here. You're not really Pa, are you, Babe? That was from 1933, and Babe even signed it down here by his name. Wow, these are actual bats from his career with the Red Sox. This top one especially, this was used from 1918 to 1921. Wow, that's really cool. You don't often see anything from those days. Most of it is from his Yankees days when he was a power hitter. But that's really cool to see one of his Boston Red Sox bats. Oh, I was wondering, I'm looking at the bottom bat and I was going, when did he use this one? And then I noticed that it said Jackson, and I started going, wait a minute, it couldn't be. Sure enough, it is. This was a bat that was gifted to Babe from Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was eventually involved in the 1919 White Sox, well, they called it the Black Sox scandal, and was kicked out of baseball for life. It's really crazy that he would have this. You always wonder what people keep from their collection. Now this says, Ruth's called shot home run was Saturday, October 1st, Game 3 of the 1932 World Series. Babe Ruth hit his legendary called shot home run, one of the most dramatic moments in baseball history. Autographed 1932 Yankees ball. The mini bat over here. And these pins are all from that day and that moment. So this ball is actually signed by all of Babe's teammates with him on the sweet spot. Babe Ruth signed baseballs now alone, usually on the low end, go for like $3,000 to $5,000. So a nice team signed ball like that's probably $25,000. Some often say that this was the best back-to-back hitting duo of all time, Ruth and Gehrig. Now here's a dugout. They recreated the dugout, and you can sit here and watch a little featurette on the called shot. But what's interesting is they say there was a lot of bad blood during this because the Yankees had traded over a player to the Cubs named Mark Koenig, and they didn't want to pay him the full cut of World Series pay after he came over from the Yankees mid-season. So the Yankees players found out about this because they were still friends with him. They got mad about it, and they were basically screaming and heckling each other through all those games from their dugouts. They said on the Yanks end, Babe got most of it from the Cubs players. There's the poster from that World Series. They said that through the whole series in the media and from the dugout, Babe was heckling the Cubs, calling them cheapskates because of what they had done to Mark Koenig. Here on this display they have Derek Jeter's batting gloves, and it says that he wore these gloves in 2012 when he passed Babe Ruth's career mark for doubles on the all-time Yankees list. Here they're showing movies made about Babe, and that's the one that made me a fan. So this is dedicated to his family life. That shows his daughters and his wife Claire and they talk about how he only had 3 places that he ever considered home. One was above his father's bar in that apartment. That is now where that bar would have been, is short center field in Oriole Park. Then his home in Sudbury, Massachusetts, and his Riverside Drive apartment in Manhattan. But this is some of the memorabilia from the family. That's Claire his wife's wedding dress,
as much as possible.
which is nice to
Had a
see.
dinner time at night, and he was always there. And he stayed home unless he had somewhere to go.
And then Babe's ashtray.
Other than that, I remember him as being
He
home.
loved to smoke. And the
Also
family radio
two crystal goblets
is
and
in
the
there.
Ruth family radio. Listen
Along
up
with
as
those
daughter
goblets.
Julia describes both.
They are part of a set of 8. And that was the number of people that Mother and Daddy would have in for dinner. And they were water goblets. And every time that there was company for dinner, they were used at the dinner table. Daddy and I loved certain programs like The Lone Ranger. Nobody else was interested except him and me. As soon as dinner was over, we'd go into the bedroom where the radio was, and we would listen to The Lone Ranger with the Hi-Yo Silver. He'd sit in the chair and I'd sit on the floor, and we'd listen to them. That was fun.
Claire Hodgson wore the dress featured here when she married Babe Ruth on April 17, 1929, the opening day of the baseball season. Claire had met Babe 6 years earlier, and the great slugger was immediately taken with the young actress from Georgia. Listen in as Claire's daughter, Julia, recalls how they first met.
Well, my mother was in a show, and the star of the show was a man by the name of Jim Barton. He and his wife felt very, very protective of Mother because she was only a kid, 21, 22 years old.
And these are all autographed baseballs by Babe Ruth. That one says, "To Little Mary" from Babe Ruth. That one's in really good condition, actually. Then there's one. There he is, stating that you could win one of his signed baseballs. Babe was born up here in this room. So we saw the ground floor of the family home. He was born in this room. They have a copy of his birth certificate right here. This is a baby photo of Babe. Those were his parents. You can definitely see the mix of him in there. He definitely looks like both of them. And then look at this, they have a picture of Brother Matthias. Brother Matthias, I don't know which one he preferred to go by, but then here they show tickets from his very first game in 1914 for the Orioles. It was like in a ticket book. That's interesting. And then up here they have a photo of the Lafayette Hotel, which is where the Orioles had spring training in 1914. And here's the team photo from 1914. There he is down there on the very end as an Oriole. Now, I walked right past this and didn't even see this, but wow, I'm loving this. I just can't believe they have it. His St. Mary's School for Boys uniform. Wow. From June 13th, 1902 till February 27th, 1914, he stayed under the care of the Zavarian brothers. Discipline. He'd have classroom instruction and given a large dose of Catholic religion. In fact, some of his teammates would say that he would sometimes, you know, even if they were out partying all night, he would make sure to wake up so that those guys could go to church. Wow, I just can't believe they actually have one of his jerseys here. Wow. And then they have his hymnal and rule book down here. And this little note says, George H. Ruth, world's worst singer, world's best pitcher. There's a copy of his hymnal. And that was his from the school. Here he is on the School for Boys team, and when he was the catcher, right up there up top with the catcher's mask. And there's an old calendar from 1913, so he would have somewhere been in this picture, because that's right before he went off to the Orioles. So this is explaining why Babe was sold. At the time, the Orioles were not the only team, the only baseball team here in Baltimore. There was a team actually right across the street named the Terrapins, and they were more of a major league caliber team, so all the fans used to flock to see them, and Dunn had to end up selling his top 3 stars to make payroll, so he sold them to the Red Sox. We have a couple of little things around here that are just showing the family's German ancestry when he would have been born. Like I said, he could speak German when he was a little kid. And if you look at this, this was the saloon his dad owned. Years later, Babe would come back to visit his dad, and there's his dad working at the counter, and Babe helping him out here. How would you ever forgive your dad, you know, for putting you in an orphanage? This place was great. Now we're gonna go buy a shirt or two. They have some great merch. Like that one. And that one's pretty cool too. And of course these. Well, I loved it. That was an incredible experience. I've always wanted to come here, and it did not disappoint, that's for sure. I did ask about St. Mary's School for Boys. What happened to it? So what I was told was that when Babe Ruth would have went there, they had added on some of the buildings after he left. So it was a bigger place. And then they had a fire in the 20s, and it damaged a lot of the buildings. So Babe Ruth actually donated money to restoring it, and then during the war, the school was shut down and it opened to something else, and they added buildings and removed buildings. So basically, any part of it that Babe Ruth would have went to school in is no longer there. And even if it's raining, I want to go see something else while we're here. A little bit of rain. What's up with the pig over there? Oh, Pigtown. They used to call this Pigtown, that's why. So now we're over here on Woodyear, and this was the house, or this is where little Babe Ruth lived in. We saw where he was born in, that was the grandfather's house, but he lived here till he was about 6 years old. And then when his father opened the saloon over where the ballpark is, they lived in an apartment above the saloon. So I was kind of surprised that he would say that that was one of the only homes he knew, because I guess, you know, I guess he was younger here, but this was definitely one of Babe Ruth's homes. 339, this red one right here. Look at that place, the Pickles Pub. So we saw inside the museum that they have a statue out here at Camden Yards to Babe. Let's check it out. This is really cool. A lot of their statues are inside the gates, but this one is not. Babe's Dream is what it's called. George Herman Babe Ruth, Baltimorean. That's a cool way to be remembered, even though he didn't get the career with the Orioles he probably should have had. Different time. They have statues to various people. Cal Ripken, Eddie Murray, Jackie Robinson, Brooks Robinson. I'll have to come check out a game here sometime. I definitely want to check out all the parks and definitely the Orioles. we're gonna head out to a cemetery. All right, we have made it out to Most Holy Redeemer Cemetery. Babe himself is not buried out here. We have been to his grave in New York together. We're here to see where his mother's buried. This place is massive, but at least I know a section, and it should be pretty identifiable if I can at least find the section. We're looking for section G. This is double H right here. Looks like a lot of older headstones near her. You can see a lot of the headstones are kind of at a slant or falling over. Time is taking its toll on some of them. There must have been a lot more Schambergers than I thought, because that's a big Schamberger grave. That was his grandparents, but that's not his grandparents' grave right there. That's just their name. Still having trouble finding G. I found L though. I can't believe I actually found it. I saw this one over here that said Peters, and I knew that was one that I was looking for. And I knew that hers was a different color than all the others here. You can see right here his mother. It's a nice headstone, so definitely not the original headstone if she had one at all. But it does note that he is her son, mother of George Herman Babe Ruth Jr. Catherine Ruth. Who knows why they couldn't handle him, just couldn't find ways of controlling him, but weird to think of that the only day he was ever allowed out of St. Mary's from the time he was 7 till 19 would have been for her funeral. So I thought that was worth coming out here for. And she birthed one of the greatest athletes of all time and probably the greatest baseball player of all time. I'm kind of surprised that her parents aren't out here, because those were her parents that she gave birth to Babe in their house. She's not out here by them, and her husband, George Sr.'s not out here.